Hi, this is attorney Carolyn Elefant, and I have a practice in Washington, D.C., and I focus on power, pipelines, and property. So what that means is I represent landowners, and they may be homeowners or farmers or municipalities or school districts, landowners who own property that is crossed by an interstate gas pipeline or facility that is regulated by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC. So I know that that's a mouthful, and I'm going to be spending time on this video talking about the FERC process, but I want to tell you a little bit about myself first. So I started my practice back in 1988. I started as an attorney advisor at FERC, and what I did was I advised FERC technical staff, so engineers and scientists and attorneys, and also the commissioners themselves on the environmental laws that applied to hydroelectric licensing. And hydroelectric projects generate power from water. I didn't work on any gas projects when I was at FERC back then, and I left FERC after 2 years. I worked in private practice at big and small firms in DC doing energy work, and I started my own firm back in 1994. I didn't really start doing pipeline and landowner work until about 10 years ago, and the way that came about was there's a state legislator in Pennsylvania who had a group of constituents who were very irate about the process that a pipeline was using to expand a project on their property. So the congressman contacted a colleague of mine who I had worked with in DC, and that colleague called me because he knew I had FERC experience, asked me to talk to the constituents. And so it was sort of trial by fire because I went to this room of 200 people and had to explain the FERC process, which I myself had only figured out that morning. But I did work with some of those landowners in their case in federal court, and since that time I have been doing the landowner pipeline work. There's not a lot of attorneys who do this work. A lot of eminent domain work is handled by attorneys who have expertise in state eminent domain law, because that's really more predominant, or by state land attorneys or real estate attorneys. But because of the way the FERC process works, how it's centralized in Washington, there's really a need for, I identified that there was a need for landowners to be represented by somebody who had FERC expertise, as well as the ability to be able to defend them and raise the constitutional and due process issues in the eminent domain part of the case. So that's how I started doing this work. Fast forward 10 years, and here I am. I've been involved in almost every landowner, FERC pipeline, eminent domain case in some capacity or another, sometimes representing clients, sometimes consulting or advising environmental groups or other organizations that are taking the lead in the cases. But I've been involved in almost every case, that pipeline case that has come out of FERC in the past 5 or 6 years.